I'm really interested to hear what you think about Tank Davis, right? Because I know on some of our boxing chats, I mean, that's a hot topic. Let me start by saying I'm a Tank Davis fan. I do. I like Tank Davis as a fighter. I think he's exciting. I don't think he gets enough credit based on his resume, and that's his own fault. I'm just disappointed. When I throw stuff out there about Tank, I'm like any other fan. I just want to see him fight the top names because I think he's that good, and he needs to start to challenge himself. He's not getting any younger either. Recently, is that he's fighting Frank Martin. What do you make on his movement? Frank Martin's a good fighter. He's a good technical fighter. He's got some skills, but he's not a hard puncher. What do you think about that fight and how Tank has been moving as far as his career?
Personally, I like the fight. It's a really good fight. No knock on Frank Martin. We want to see, Tank versus the best, like you said. This has been a long time. I respect Tank as a fighter. He has excellent boxing skills, which a lot of people just look at the knockouts. He has great power. He hurts people, but the man can box. He could use his jab. He knows how to use his footwork. He has good defensive skills. The man is an all-around good, solid fighter, and he's super talented. He's young. We've watched him grow. We've seen Mayweather and Al Heyman do a phenomenal job in, promoting this young man into a superstar. They call him the face of boxing. He's not really the face of boxing because Canelo is still the face of boxing, but he's right there. He's a ticket seller. He puts butts in those arenas, and he's a very entertaining and exciting fighter. So the Frank Martin fight,
face of boxing.
The Frank Martin fight is a very good fight. Frank Martin is a top contender. He's an excellent boxer. His power is not that big, but the man could crack a little, but it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be a really good fight. There's been talk about sparring sessions, like all these other gym wars that have been going on with, him and Tank, getting the best of each other in sparring. We haven't seen no footage of that, but, we want to see Tank against Devin Haney. We want to see Tank against the other champions at 135 pounds. Lomachenko is the two-time lightweight champion. As old as he is, he's still a viable contender for Tank. He's right in the mix. And Tank hasn't fought this man, I think, since 2015, 2016. They've been calling for that fight, and they've been stalling it, making 1,000 excuses why they can't make that fight. And that fight should have happened years ago. But now is the time while he's old, have that fight at least. At least give us the Shakur Stevenson, who's probably the best in the division skill-wise, who's a WBC champion. Have that fight with Shakur Stevenson. These fights need to be made in his own weight division. And if you could go up to 140 to fight, Barrios and everything, who's a much bigger guy than Devin Haney as far as size-wise, you can fight a Devin Haney. There's a lot of argument about it. We saw the sparring session that they had. Tank needs to fight these guys. It's a good fight with Frank Martin, but after that, you need to fight one of the top guys. At least Teofimo Lopez, somebody.
Listen, you nailed it. And that's been my biggest disappointment about Tank. I think he has the skills and can beat any of those guys. But if you're not fighting them, how are you going to prove that, right? The fight that I want to see, it's funny you brought that up because that Lomachenko fight, we wanted to see that years and years ago. And, Mayweather's people and they weren't even talking about it. Like, they would turn the other cheek when it was mentioned to them. Maybe it's a fight that happens now because Lomachenko is, obviously, that latter part of his career. But the fight that I want to see him fight Shakur. I think that would be a tremendous fight. They're both in the same division. They need to stop playing games, and get this thing on because Tank Davis is that good.